you probably are the one who doesn't know everybody. So maybe Barb, you just real quick just say who you are, and that way everybody knows everybody. Barb, hello.
I'm muted, of course.
Oh,
Uh,
that's okay.
I'm Barb Stillemer. I am a business strategist, and I work with business owners who are in growth transition companies that are tech based. I've been in technology for about 30 years, and
And you're
like
coming to
you,
us from Canada?
Canada, yeah, just north of Toronto in Canada. Yes,
North America.
north in North America, north of US, and north of Toronto. So we're north. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yay, thanks for having
Candice,
me.
where are you located?
I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Awesome. And Manda, where are you? You're in Texas, right?
I am not in Texas. I am
No, Marianne's in Texas.
Marianne's in Texas. I'm in the Midwest. I'm in Wisconsin.
I knew that because that's where I went skydiving.
Ooh.
Yay. Because I used to work for 3M Pharma, so that's the thing. That's a thing. So I was in Minnesota. All right. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to Ladies Power Lunch. We have a wonderful group of women joining us today to talk to us about using intuition in your business. Intuition in your business? What? Anyway, they're going to really give us some good insight about why this is a good thing, could be a good thing, could be something that we're using more of. For those of you who are joining us over on our Facebook page, our Facebook group, welcome. So happy to see you. I am just making sure that I'm in the right place so that I can see any questions or any concerns that you have. Um, Feel free to post them up in the group, and I will pose your questions to our panel. So let me just go around the room and give our extra special guests, Manda, Barb, and Candice, an opportunity to introduce themselves and say who they are and how this topic of intuition in business hits them. And of course, we'd also like to welcome Marianne and Robin, who've joined us on the Zoom today. So, Manda, can you tell us who you are and how intuition plays a part in your business?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Davia. Hello, everybody. My name is Manda Stack, and I am an intuitive coach and energy clearing specialist, certified in energy clearing work. And intuition is my passion.
Stack, and I am an
intuition is definitely something I use in my business. It's something I want to support in other people's work. And I came to it by way of feeling really wide open energetically and very bombarded by energy and other people's negative energy. And I didn't really understand what was going on for a long time. I felt drained and tired and I would take on other people's bad moods and it wasn't mine. I knew it was happening, but I didn't know what to do about it until I started studying energy work and learned that we don't end at our skin, that we really are interacting energetically with people all the time. So I studied with various healers and different modalities of energy work and found that that really helped set the foundation for me for having better what I call energetic hygiene, being more clear about my own energetic boundaries, where I end and what's other people's stuff that I don't need to take on, and stay clear and grounded in my own energy. And so it's really a passion of mine. I wish we taught energy in school so that we could help everyone manage their own energy. Which when you feel good energetic wise, you are more calm and clear and connected to your own inner wisdom. So that is, that's how I came into this work. And now I do that. This is what I offer for other people in business. So great to be here with you all today.
Muted. Yep, I was muted. Okay. So thank you, Amanda. That was really great introduction. I would love, Barb, if you would just hop off mute and introduce yourself and say how this working with intuition in your business has come to you.
Yeah, I'm Barb Stuhlemer, and my company is Blitz Business Success. I'm a business strategist for business owners who are in transition, in their companies are in transition. So energetically, I love what Manda has to say. And we had a little conversation offline there, and she was talking about quantum mechanics. And I'm like, oh, I love the idea. I went to school for physics. So I'm thinking, oh, quantum physics and quantum mechanics, so interesting. I love to be able to describe and help people understand. So I'm a teacher at heart, and I'm a lifelong learner. So I have to know how everything works, and then I need to be able to apply it so that other people can learn it. And which is different than intuition in the sense that the science is the background, but I want to know why my faith is real, why the energy. So I'm very empathetic, and I, like you, Amanda, I take on a lot of energy. I had no language for it. And, you know, there's a lot of challenges in our world when people think that just because it hasn't gone through some kind of scientific testing, that there is no way of describing it for the average person. And I don't like that. So I know that what we don't know right now, what we might call magic right now, is just science for the future. And so we can describe everything. We just don't know how to do that. So when people say, oh, it's witchcraft, I just go, oh, no, hold on. I know that this background is and here's some research on that. And I have some people who, you know, their science backgrounds, and that's what they do. And I love to connect people with that in their lives. I don't do that for my business, but I do that intuitively for them when we're connecting. So love it.
I love it. And I remember, Barb, you and I were having a conversation about quantum entanglement and all of this other fun stuff, because for me, the whole idea of using your intuition, it doesn't come naturally for me. My dad was a scientist. My initial foray into the work world was in a science-based, research-based situation. And so if I can't see the double-blinded controlled studies that are showing you that this is actually valid, then I might be a bit hesitant to embrace it. But I love what you say about the things that we consider magic today being actually the science of tomorrow. If you had talked to somebody about the earth being round a few years ago, not that long, they would have probably burnt you at the stake, right? So there's all this stuff that we don't know, and I'm so open to learning more, but I appreciate what you're saying, that having some scientific basis for the things that you are seeing is always helpful. Candice, thank you so much for joining us today. It's so lovely to see you. And would you introduce yourself to our guests and just tell us what your interest is with this whole idea of intuition?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm Candace Thomas. I'm an intuitive coach, and I help entrepreneurs, leaders, artists use their intuition on purpose to get the results that they want for their clients, themselves, and their communities. And so I would say that I base myself in results-based woo-woo, where when you work with me, you don't just get good feelings, but here's a tangible in the world result. And I actually fell into it. So very similar to Manda's story, I actually worked for the federal government for 15 years as an accountant. And then I just had, I woke up psychic one day. It wasn't anything cool. I just really hated my job. And again, like, I feel like I could be twins with Manda, because I was absorbing energy and I didn't know it. So I was getting physically sick on my job. And at the time I was a strong people pleaser. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted, but I was also very high in my organization at a very young age. I was like a GS 13, which, if you don't know government schedules, that's usually you have to be in the federal government for like 20 or 30 years. And I was like 27 when I got that. And just the stress of that really pushed my gifts open. And it was interesting because of my accounting background and my analytical mind and needing to understand things, I noticed that when I was talking to people about my psychic ability, that I could explain to them, hey, here's how you can do it for yourself too. And they would start applying. And it was the bigger light bulb moment came from when I started explaining to people. Everyone was like, oh yeah, that always happens to me. I understand what you mean and what you're saying by that. And it was kind of making it unsexy and demystifying it. And what I very quickly saw was that most people don't have a problem with understanding their intuition. They have a problem with trusting it. They still want all the proof. They want the double blind study before they will take a step or an action on information they're already receiving. And then they don't take any action, or they wait and they're like, well, it's not real. I can't prove it. See, it doesn't make any sense. But that's because intuition doesn't necessarily make sense to our logical minds, which is rooted in what we already know, what we believe, what our past experiences are. So I'm really passionate about intuition in all areas of life, but especially business, because the way that people have their businesses is usually an expression of the thing that they came to the world to do, the thing that's really on their heart, the thing that they feel divinely connected, that is their soul mission for being here. And I love helping people achieve that.
Awesome. Thank you. So we're talking today about using intuition in your business, because a lot of people are probably in the background of their business using their intuition, but they are not comfortable with the idea of bringing that to the foreground. Maybe they think it might be scary to their clients, or maybe like Candace is saying, maybe they don't trust it enough. So Manda, I'm going to come to you because you did an energy clearing for me and I found it particularly helpful. How can people really tune into their intuition in a way that it can be beneficial for them in business?
In business, yes. So I love that the definition of intuition comes from the Latin word intuere, which means to guard and to protect. So just knowing that we have this inner, like we're wired in a way to be able to tap into this knowing that serves a purpose, like that legitimizes it. There's really a reason for it, so that we're not, in business, we might prescribe to someone else's formula of how to do things, and maybe it works for a while or it gets us going, but then it doesn't fit so well. It doesn't fit our style or what we need. And I think that's a beautiful time for us to really use that that inner wisdom to fine tune how we really want to express our work in the world. So I guess my basic way of supporting people is intuition needs some time of quiet and space in order to be heard. So embodiment, coming down, dropping into your physical body. And I know that can be a little scary for some people because there's so much going on in our minds. And, if I do get quiet, am I going to be overwhelmed by information? So I say approach it playfully, see what messages there may be. Don't make it so heavy or serious. It's there to serve, to guide, to protect you. So you have a relationship with your intuition, and it's a two-way street. Your inner wisdom wants to guide you and share information with you, and we need to be open to it and receptive and be a good friend to it. Sit down and have a cup of tea or coffee with it and listen.
I like that. Probably we all, in my opinion, we all have access to this knowing. As you said, it's the way it's defined is as something that is protective for us. And I think maybe about 70% of the population or so, they are able to maybe feel in their body. Some people say, I felt it in my gut, that whether something is right for them or not right for them. And I think many people, because I would say maybe I am guilty of that too, we don't trust that often. And on the times when we don't trust it, it's very often that people will say, ah, I should have trusted my gut. Yeah, so I totally get what you're saying with that. Barb, how about you? How do you think people can be more interested or feel more comfortable using intuition in their business?
Yeah, well, first you have to know people like Candace and Manda because um, as a person who I have my own intuition. I've been called a clairvoyant, and people would see that in me, but they wouldn't want to, even if I could explain it to them, even, the results of heart math and the idea that we have 100,000 or more brain cells in our gut, so we can actually use that. And like, there's all kinds of people just don't, I can't help them connect that. So the first thing is figure out how to find the way to tap into your own intuition, which is what Manda just finished saying. And I know Candace was alluding to that, and they'll talk more about it. But once you get to that place, it's knowing when to use it, and then how to stop yourself from using your brain when you know that your intuition's right. And how do you know when you're using your intuition and you're not using intuition bias, which is based on the things that you already know, and you think, oh, this is how I always do it, and your intuition kicks in automatically, and it's not actually catching the things that that you should actually be looking at. So it's almost common sense, but we don't do this. We don't do this work. And I love, Candace, that you said this should be taught in schools. So how do we get to a place where the language of what we use and the knowledge about what's been proven is strong enough that we can actually teach our children that they have the ability to check in? Because if you can check in, you can figure out where you are, and you can, drop into your body, like you say, and you don't get sick as often. You don't feel hurt when people say things. So I love that that there are people like you that can help people get there.
Excellent. I identify with what you have all been saying about taking on other people's emotions and the energy of others. And I can give you an example. I love to tell stories, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, she has another story. Make it stop. But you're going to have to listen anyway. There was this one patient who walked in one day, and I remember her so clearly. It's like I could see her standing before me right now. And the moment she walked in, I just felt that heavy feeling. I felt almost as though I was having back pain, like severe tightness in my lower back. I could physically feel it. Never met this woman before, never, ever, ever seen her. And she walked in, and I knew she wasn't an appropriate patient for me because I was taking on her energy. And we talked, and the direction of the conversation opened up to show that all the things that I was feeling were the things that she was feeling also. And it was a good opportunity for me to give her an appropriate referral. But you have to be so careful. And this is something that, like you say, if this was taught in schools, I feel like our population would be so much healthier and happier, because you have to know what situations you can be in and which ones you should avoid. And I feel like me just following my intuition in that moment told me that this was a situation I needed to avoid. So there you go. Yet another Davia story. Candice, how about you working with intuition in your business? What would you have to say to people about that?
Well, first, I want to say I think it was Manda who made the comment about it should be taught in schools, which I agree with. That wasn't me. It was brilliant, though. I feel like people think intuition is my job is to demystify it. And when we use our intuition on purpose, it's incredible. It's incredibly humbling. And I'm always amazed, like, no way. And I'm a freaking psychic medium. And I'm like, oh my God, can you believe it? Like, I call my friends every time there's something cool that happens, which is a lot. And at the same time, I feel like a big part of my work is like making it unsexy and uncool. So because if you make it too fantastic, people are like, well, I never have amazing experiences. My life is pretty mundane. So what you just described is a pretty sexy experience of someone walked in and you had a whole physical body reaction and it was so strong. And for a lot of people, It's more like they want some sort of hot, sexy one night stand with intuition where it's always that intense and it's always like that super loud and clear and lasts a long time. When for many of us, it's more like a long-term steady relationship that's maybe not as hot on the surface, but it's always there for you. It's like in a softer, quieter voice. And what I have come to see with everything that everyone's saying is you do have to learn how you receive intuitive information. For me, if I receive something that's not in my highest and best interest, it doesn't hit my stomach. I get like a tugging sensation in different parts of my body. But I didn't know that until I started to be present with myself and just notice how my body was responding in situations, and also notice that it repeated. So if I'm talking with someone who lies to me, I get a certain sensation in my body, and I get that same sensation anytime someone's lying to me, whether they know it or not. Like they might believe something's true, but it's not the truth, and I get this sensation in my body. And now I just know that. I didn't know it when it was first happening. So when you were talking about hindsight being 2020, like, oh, I should have listened. It's like that sometimes is the best teachers of stuff, because then you can start building your dictionary or your language for how can I use this in practical situations in my everyday life. And the other big, huge lesson that I would say for using intuition in business, the reason why people don't trust intuition is because they inherently don't trust themselves. So you have to be, if you really want to use your intuition on purpose in your business, are you really being true to the work that you want to do? Are you really being true to how you want to do the work? Or are you listening to other folks? Do you feel brave enough to say, well, maybe I don't need to work on my mindset. I just don't want to do it in this way. Maybe I want to find another way to operate and do my thing over here. I think people really get caught up in looking for some sort of outside validation that that's why they want to be intuitive, but you don't get that clarity and like super focused laser, like this is exactly the next step to take, until you're really brave enough and willing to listen to yourself and honor your true wants and desires. Not being positive, but just being real about what you're going through, what you're experiencing. Like you start there is a big piece that gets overlooked in the conversations with intuition.
Candice, that is so, so wonderful. I just want to say hello to some of the women who are joining us from over on our Facebook page, our Facebook group, rather. Hello, Wendy. Hello, Lynn. Hello, Audra. Nice to see all of you over there. Lynn says, I love that. Use intuition on purpose. Wendy says, very cool, Candice. Thank you. Wow. Thank you, Amanda. Great perspective and advice. And somebody says, awesome. There's some hearts and things like that. I invite you guys, if you have a question for any of our panelists, you could drop it in the chat. Lynn says, spot on, Candice. You could drop it in the chat. You could raise your hand. You could just unmute yourself and blurt it out. Really and truly, this is a discussion that's here for you. So, Manda, let me invite you to unmute yourself. And I would say, do you have any stories for us about any instance of just intuition that's interesting that we might find to be a good teaching moment?
Yes, and I really want to piggyback on what Candice said. It's so true. The times that we don't, or when we do hear our intuition, but we don't trust and follow it, and hindsight, we see that we should have, those really are golden moments. And even though they're uncomfortable to go through, what I think that does is it actually builds our intuitive muscles, so to speak, so that next time we will be more likely to trust and act on our inner wisdom. And I've had many times when I should have trusted and followed. One of them that I'm thinking of is when in my business, I hired my first virtual assistant. I was ready to expand and delegate some of my more technical work so that I could focus on what I really wanted to do in my work. And I was so enthusiastic and excited about it, and did a little research on who to hire and connected with one of them, and it seemed okay. I signed the contract, and then right away there were these little red flags that I just, they were so minor, like they would just pass through my mind. For example, the contract said she would work from like 8 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then I got an email from her at like 2 a.m., even though she was in kind of my time zone. So I'm like, something doesn't line up here. And there were a few other just really minor things that just maybe go, And a snowball effect took place where it became apparent real soon that we were not a good match. And so what I learned from that particular experience was, and it was a bit of an expensive lesson, because getting out of the contract and negotiating all that, it was definitely a hard-earned lesson. I learned to not jump in when I'm at the height of emotion, at the height of excitement about something, and make a decision. And Davia, you had a human expert on, I think, last week. If anyone knows human design, that's a wonderful tool to use in knowing how to make decisions. And a lot of us, like I think a majority of us, ride emotional waves, and we should never make a decision at the top of our emotional wave when we're really excited or enthusiastic. We shouldn't make a decision when we're at the bottom and our energy is really low. You should ride the wave and make the decision really from the neutral, calm position. So I tended to like get so excited and jump in and want to get going and then have to backtrack. That was one of my patterns that I'm still working out and learning from. So getting to know your own method of decision making, I think, is one of the most powerful ways to use and trust your intuition. So now I know better, and I offer that as one example for the rest of you.
Very good that you learned the lesson, because you know what they say, if we don't learn the lesson, we're doomed to repeat it. Lynn says, such a great point, Manda. Barb, how about you? Any stories about opportunities that you've had to use your intuition in business or clients or anything like that?
Yeah, I think it comes to money loss as well. The stories are often, challenging. And I know that when we go to events, particularly when I started business 15 years ago, I was going to a lot of events because I wanted to learn from a lot of experts, and that I'm a people pleaser as well. And so I love the idea of, seeing these amazing people and they tell you what it was that I needed. And that's not the same as what everybody else needs. I'm not the same person, but I would, like Amanda was saying, I'd be riding that high, that emotion. You're several days in an event and spend this extra money. And when I get into these, the work that we went to do, I would find myself being the smartest person in the room. It's like, why am I not learning from this? And why did I not feel this on the way in? But all I had to do was look around the room to see who I was in the room with, and then check in as, is this what I'm going to spend my time with? So, a little bit on the pragmatic side, but the other side was I knew ahead of time this wasn't going to be it, but I'm looking at that one person going, that's where I'm going to learn from. And it wasn't enough. It wasn't a one-to-one. It was I think it was like 5,000 people in the event and 200 for all the other events. And it's like, I'm not learning from this. So when I got to the point where I could say, this isn't what I really want, because I'm not excited and I'm not sad. These were just details that I needed. It became a lot easier to make decisions around what's important. And that's what I do for my clients. Make sure that the decisions that they make aren't made because, oh, this is so exciting. This is the greatest thing. And they've got this shiny object syndrome going, and we've got a new product that we're pushing out, and everybody's going to want it. And that's not the way to run a business.
So I feel like this is a perfect time to answer Robin's question, because she would like to know, how do you balance intuition with action? Like, you get downloads all the time, but they're not always for right now. And so timing is kind of a little bit of an issue sometimes. Any feedback on that for you, Barb, or anybody at all on the panel could weigh in?
Candace, I would invite you to talk about that, because I just love the way you talk about that specifically.
I'm finding this is a really great question, and this is going to seem counterintuitive and unproductive. A lot of people need way more rest And grinding is like the kryptonite to intuition, continually grinding for business. And so, of course, we get downloads of things. And here's the deal. Intuition doesn't work alone in a vacuum. You still have to know how to run a business. You still have to like work on your emotional stuff. You have to take care of yourself holistically. Intuition enhances all that you're doing. And so when it comes to, because I came from the federal government, when we had measures, like activities we were supposed to do, and we used a SMART method. So we had to set goals that were specific. I think it was measurable, like time bound was the T. I forget all the other stuff in between. And I found that intuition works the same way. So if you get like a download of ideas, I say the first thing to do right now is to check in with what do you actually have the energy to do? And of the things that you're looking at when you get the download, what is your human most excited about when you look at the list? And I get what people are saying about riding the emotional wave, but like you can get a billion different things. It's like, cool, what's the easiest, like most least, like path of least resistance thing I can do right now might be something. But also, Robin, I see that you answered your own question where it's like, hey, which of these do I do first? And sometimes there isn't a whole big, like strong feeling either way. And so then it's your human's choice. You know, what does your human feel up for? What does your human want to do? What's a baby step in the direction of, we have tons of goals, but what is actually your hot right now goal? And how does all that stuff fit into it? So it's to incorporate all of you, not just, and this is, I'm kind of talking disoriented. I hope I'm making sense. Let me know if I'm not. But so people have this idea of when you get these intuitive downloads that there is like God or spirit or the universe saying, this is, thou shalt do this. This is what you're meant to do. But it's a partnership. So we're not slaves to spirit. We're in partnership with spirit. Spirit cares very much about what's on our hearts as humans, what our goals are, which goes back to the trust thing, where I used to get downloads when I was resting, but that wasn't for me to hop into action right then. It's like, cool, I'm going to do all of these things. These all sound interesting in the moment. And then tomorrow it might be a different story. But if I get something that's totally, I'm on fire with it, I'm excited because it's the solution or the next step for the goal I'm trying to make, then that's what I'm going to do. And honestly, sometimes you really don't know because it's nonsensical. The example I was going to talk about is I was a presenter at the Los Angeles, California, like the expo. It's like a big conscious life expo where they have a lot of healers and presenters. And before I flew out, like a week before, I still hadn't figured out what I was going to talk about when I was there. Like I kind of generically gave them some stuff and I'm like, all right, what am I going to fill my time doing? And it was like, cool, I should like spend time working on my business. And instead I got this hit, like, let's just sit here and watch TV. And I watched like this television show on Adult Swim on Cartoon Network. And I watched the whole season. And this was like before binging was a thing. And like, instead of working on my presentation for the Conscious Life Expo, like that's a download that I got. And that's what I did. And then when I get to the Conscious Life Expo, this person stops by my booth and they were the creator of the show that I had binge watched. And we had this amazing conversation and he introduced me to a whole network of other people that I eventually worked with. And then an invitation, because I'm passionate about writing and screenwriting, is like, hey, like, do you want me to look at stuff? Like I built a whole thing that was, it didn't make any sense to my mind. I'm like, I've got to focus up for business. Spirit didn't tell me like, here's the thing to present. It was like, hey, I need you to watch this show. And it seemed nonsensical, but at the time it's like, yeah, I feel okay with that. That's actually what I would personally prefer to do. So, and then it was amazing. Like, why did this person stop by my booth and start talking to me? Because it was the first expo I'd ever done. So it was like really like bare. It was basically like me and a table, like a sheet of paper, no branding. It was awful. And it still ended up in this beautiful, amazing opportunity and experience that I had while I was there. So I think that when you get the list of things to do, you can, again, trust with what feels not even emotionally, but when you look at something, how is your body responding to the list? What's in alignment with what you're trying to do right now? What feels like the most natural? What do you have the energy to do? And you can always ask Spirit to order, like, what's the thing to do first?
Awesome. I love that story. That story sounds so much like so much of my life. Everything just seems to happen in just such a wonderful way. Dr. Chopra calls it synchrodestiny. It's fantastic. So, guys, listen, this is a topic that we could sit here talking about forever because it's so interesting to me. I like the idea of the science of it, I like the idea of just the experiences that everybody's had. But unfortunately, we have come to the end of our time. And so I would invite you all to just give us one last word. Like, if everybody took nothing away from this talk today, what's just one thing, Manda, Barb, and Candice, that you would love for everybody to remember? Manda, go.
All right, everyone, take a nice breath and breathe in this word. Intuition we trust. Intuition we trust. Intuition we trust.
Beautiful, beautiful. How about you, Barb? What's the last thing you want everybody to remember?
Well, don't think that it's not possible or real just because there's no evidence that's currently out there. But you can find your own evidence. And I love what our other guests are talking about today, Amanda and Candice. They've shown how you can check in on that and results driven. If you're getting results from it, then why are you not using it?
If you're getting results from it, why are you not using it? I love it. Candice, how about you? Final words.
That intuition is it forms and builds a partnership with you. That it's not, the most important thing is build trust with yourself. It's trust yourself. You know what's going on. You only ever have to trust yourself in this one specific moment. You don't have to worry about who you are or what you want or what you need and like think ahead. It's like in this moment, are you trusting yourself? Are you really listening? Because if you're not even listening, of course, you're not going to get or understand or connect to the intuitive guidance that you're receiving. So in this one moment, how deeply are you trusting and listening to yourself?
I love it. I love all those final words. And I'm going to add one little final word. Get rest, guys. Maybe about, I would say, about half the population needs to get more rest than we are currently getting. So if you feel like you're napping too much, take another nap. That would be my suggestion. Guys, it's been wonderful having you here. I would love for you to give our group members an opportunity to stay in touch with you if they'd like to work with you in any way or anything like that. And so, may I invite you to go into our Ladies Power Lunch Facebook group and just drop your information right at the top of the feed so that people can be in touch with you. They can know exactly how to connect with you. And if you want to put in links to things that you're offering right now, I invite you to go ahead and do that. And Stacy Lynn is over on Facebook. She says, I napped 2 hours yesterday. Yay, Stacy. We applaud you. And we're also jealous. Have a great day, everybody. I hope you can tune in later at 1 o'clock when we have Free Gift Friday. Lynn's going to be over here giving away wine, clean crafted wine. So come see if you're the big winner for that. And we'll catch you then at 1 o'clock. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.